So why are people experiencing negative things? What did you grow up seeing, believing about relationships or life? What are you watching in a movie that's showing you bad things, violent things?
How much of that is actually you? It's like,
right, but you're taking it on, right?
I know.
So it's not you. You're taking it on from outside sources, watching it, and your subconscious is taking it on as beliefs, right? And so then you're experiencing these negative things when you can just decide, I'm not going to watch that show. I'm not going to listen to this song. I'm not going to believe these things that I saw in relationships around me.
Because fear is just being embedded in you. So yeah, just said, hey, the feeling of fear never arises if you stay neutral. So therefore, you don't have anything to release. All right. Welcome back to another Remember You podcast. We're going to talk through attachment styles and relationships and go through a few ideas on how you can better yourself to have a better relationship.
Who wants to kick it off?
Well, I guess I'll start because I came in walking with Christine, talking about my hypnosis session and what I think I learned from it. What came to mind this morning was about grieving. Not only just physical death in our lifetime of what we experience with people that are close to us, grieving their loss, but just grieving relationships, grieving everything that we need to grieve just to release our tears, release what's embodying in us about how we feel about that loss, so that we can move forward with a lighter body, more open chakras, less blocked, less walls. And that can help us holistically in all of our relationships to be more communicative and less guarded, maybe.
And I've been working with a lot of my clients on what I call the 3 R's. So you're talking about releasing. So before you even release something, how did you recognize, go back a step, because that's the first step, that you needed to release it?
Right. So so during the hypnosis session, I don't know why I start crying, right? So, but in this hypnosis session, realizing that my mind is going to all these death scenes in my life and that I'm crying about them. And I didn't even realize they affected me that deeply, or I didn't realize I had to cry more about it. So just realizing that makes you realize that you have blockages and guards up and walls up and ways you're hiding your feelings.
Yeah, it's that once you're aware of the things that are drawing up these feelings, it's like you gotta bookmark that at the very least and go, okay, I gotta come back to this. This is something to really become at peace with, become familiar with.
Yeah, learn how to grieve, learn how to release what traumatic experience happened to you. Figure it out, because I guess I didn't know. I didn't know how.
I wonder too, well, congratulations on releasing, even though it's uncomfortable.
Still, it feels incomplete, but yeah.
But it's a really great. And I wonder too, if you're just also at a new place in your life where you have the space to poke it and feel it and actually look at it with this totally different lens. Because sometimes for me, when something really traumatic happens or something bad, my natural defense mode is fixing. And so it's because it's so much easier because you're moving the energy. You're I need to take action right now to get rid of this.
Yeah.
And then you come back to it 2 years later and you're I never sat down and cried about it, or held myself or said, fuck, that person screwed me over. Why did I let that happen? Because it's I don't want to be vulnerable with myself. But I wonder if that's maybe you just are at a place where you have that space.
Right. I think that's correct. Because to release the trauma of anything, right? To take that time to even know that you need that time. And so living my life, we're all so busy. We're all so busy just doing and living. And that's what I saw that I was doing. I just was busy working all the time. So I didn't take the time to grieve anything.
Yeah. It's living on autopilot. Totally.
Yeah, that was a profound experience. Just having her go through the preset to the hypnosis was an hour, 2 hour conversation of having to work to support herself, to provide, and go, 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 go. And then when she went under with hypnosis, it was just this scene after scene after scene of some type of emotion that she was processing in the moment and actually going through. And what's the real thing about hypnosis is it's a somnambulistic state, which means that you're actually in it. You're experiencing it. It's virtual reality, and it's
that's why having like a really strong, safe guide is so important, because you can go back to those places and like, you know, it's not like you want to try to view it from a different perspective rather than like feeling the trauma happening to you all over again. Yeah. So there's like, I think, a really fine line to delineate there. But one thing that I'm so big about, obviously I talk about this all the time, is like somatic release. Mm-hmm. And so even though like you're still
feeling like I need to,
right? Like keep going in, like I think you're gonna be blown away by like how your body feels. Yeah. Like, cause it's like, sounds like years and years of just like letting trauma something or just like putting, like sometimes in seasons of life, you don't have time to like be in it. If you're like surviving, like you have to hustle or whatever you're doing. It's like, oh, that fucked me up. I got to put that on a shelf and I'm going to come back to that. Is that wrong? Like sometimes you can't.
So we do.
Like you can't.
Interestingly, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day about this. She does this thing called the passion test, and it's learning your passion. And she said, there's different times when you can sit down and meditate and learn your passion. And I said, yeah, I totally agree with that. She told a story then about her best friend who was a stay-at-home mom, went through a divorce, and she was like, we got to do your passion test. And she's like, I'm sorry, but I'm not doing a passion test. I'm just surviving right now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like, I have to feed my kids and I don't have the same income. And and she goes, I know it. I'm living in a state of fear because I don't know how I'm going to put food on the table for my kids from day to day. Yeah. And so I think when we're talking about all these things, we also have to think through, like, there's times and places, like you're saying, where you are allowed to just put this stuff on a shelf and say, I have to get through my life right now, but know that you have to come back to deal with it later.
And that's the thing, like him saying survivor, I didn't even register that part because I just think we're all living to work. We're working to support ourselves. And so I'm just thinking we're living our lives. And so we don't take the time, like they give you the time to grieve someone's death, but you don't take it because you're self-employed and you got stuff to do and you just don't think about that. That may have affected me. And I needed to take the time and I just didn't.
But are we taught that either? So like if, for example, that stay-at-home mom that was now thrown into working full-time, being a single parent and all this other thing, do we expect that you continue on with your life? And we, as a society, we're not at a place where we're like, we need to almost go back to the old way of doing things where we get together and we grieve together in a community and we allow that space for people because we don't even. So, for example, you lose a husband or a wife, right? Who's around you? There's a lot of people around you doing all these things, right? Like planning, making sure you're okay. But are they actually sitting with you, holding your hand, like letting you cry it out?
I know.
That's so mad.
We're not. That's the other thing I was thinking. We're not being told to grieve in the sense of go ahead, cry and let it out. And that's going to heal you because we don't think of it that way. So who's doing that? Everyone's just getting together, socializing at these events and not really allowing someone to cry about it. Like, we're sad. I mean, let's cry.
I'm so fucking sad. I just want to cry.
I'm not doing that. So it's going to make me cry talking about this. But my divorce, it was like a death. And I didn't get to grieve. I had to move on, get moving with my life. And I had a company and no one sat around like saying, oh, let's get the sadness out. And like that hurt and what happened and how do you heal all those years of hurt that you didn't deal with.
Because no one's realizing that that's healing. The crying is healing you. We're thinking it's a bad thing. Why do I want to cry? That just makes me feel bad. Why do I want to feel bad? But it actually, like why we had Alana and she talked about all the crying she did. And then I realized after she spoke, it was a healing thing for her. And so if it's a healing thing for her, it's probably a healing thing for all of us, right? So we need to encourage the crying so we can release that pain and then move forward.
The way I look at crying is like sweating, where it's like it is a detoxification process, is sweating. It's getting rid of toxins. It's getting rid of things that shouldn't be in your body, or, you know, it's the circulation of the body in many ways, cooling off the system. Yes, but so is crying. It's the same thing where you are releasing emotion, and it's such a visceral physical experience connected with the spiritual emotional aspect of things, where it's like, this is clearly bothering me, or this is clearly triggering something within me. And as you're talking about like the death and the loss, like this is where we got to get really clear how we're defining things and seeing what perspective are we seeing it from. Because last episode we were talking about 5D. There is no loss. Right. There is no like
only
death,
transformation.
Death is a change of consciousness. It's not a change.
Yeah. And then she could be happy of her rebirth and her new transition. That's the whole thing. But you still got to grieve to release that, right?
You do.
That's what our logo is, right? It's the transformation of death and rebirth. And that's why we got together to do this podcast.
To make each other cry.
To make it
This is so interesting. So again, another alien moment of me. Like I became obsessed with this word when I was like 14 or 15. I saw this like Sanskrit symbol and I was like Googling it, and it's the Sanskrit symbol for the word moksha. And I have no idea how this is literally like, I was like 14 or 15. I was like, I found it on Pinterest. Oh, this is cool. I wanted this as a tattoo. Literally have no idea what it means. I do have a tattoo of it on the center of my back, but
can we see it?
Yes, maybe not in this context because I feel like rip my clothes off. But my point is in moksha, the concept of moksha is exiting the cycle of death and rebirth. And that to me is like what 5D is like you're saying. And like, to me, it's not like, that's like such a heavy thing, right? It's like, what the fuck was a 14-year-old thinking? Like, you could understand that. And that can mean so many other things, like historically when you look up like the meaning of it. But to me, it's like exiting the emotional cycle of death and rebirth and like allowing life to like flow. It's like, you know, the river flowing, like hands up, letting life be the river, and you're in your canoe and you're just like letting life go. But I still think that that's like, again, the difference between like something that's like conceptual versus like what is reality as like human beings. And like,
and what are you living every day? Because as much as work that I have done, I still have these feelings. I go through these emotions, and it's like, you think you're healed one minute, and then you get back into like an old way of feeling, and you're like, where did this come from? And how come I can't stay in my 5D reality? Like, what is wrong with me?
And that's the thing. We have to realize we're in evolution, and we're doing this by experience. So we have to have experiences with other people in this life physically to evolve, because that's our teaching, right? So it's depending on how we perceive it and how we choose to move forward. Like you were able to have a death, but you have a rebirth with a new person. So depending on our level of awareness and our ability to perceive and know that we can have a better thing coming is how we can evolve. But if we don't get there, if we think we can't have that, then that's...
Well, and the other thing is, for some reason, it just triggered me to think about this, is when it could have been a death and a rebirth in that relationship. It didn't have to be with somebody new, but neither one of us were ready to grow at that pace, unfortunately, to save the relationship and have a whole nother like level of amazingness, right? So unfortunately, it went on to having to have somebody else do that learning with. But I don't think that necessarily every relationship has to end,
right?
Like as a couple or a friendship or whatever. It could be a choice to elevate up.
Yes.
Well, and 100% agree with that, especially too. I love talking about like all the things we're talking about with relationships, not just romantically, but like platonically and also family members, because it's all the same patterns, just like a slightly different perspective. But like in order to die in a relationship, like with another person, it's like you really have to like somehow in your own way come up with a process for you to like release your perception and your ideas of who you think that person is, because your locked in version of who you think they are could be holding them back.
Yeah.
And could be holding your relationship back from actually evolving and blooming into the
And I think if we bring it back from the listener perspective, and you do this in a work situation, because most of us have to work and we have to deal with different people. And as soon as you label somebody that you're working with in a certain way, you created the story.
Yes.
You've created the story. And it's that one person who likes to talk at the water cooler and they're just going to always just be a pain. Whatever. And that's the story you've created.
I got an example of this more on like a personal level, but still like call it work related. It's distant enough where I don't know this person. So in my neighborhood, I tend to walk my dog without a leash. She's a golden retriever. She's as calm as can be. But there's this one woman, as I went a couple blocks away, would just make a stink anytime I was walking by, that I was walking this golden retriever that I know wouldn't hurt a soul. She's making a fit about it. And she's telling me how she had this world-class trained Rottweiler, and, you know, this dog would listen to everything that she did, and she understands that this is a golden retriever, but was like just making a stink out of it and trying to compare and contrast between how her dog was better than mine. And I was just not caring. I was just like, you're yelling at me. You're literally getting in my face about this. And
your dog's like, huh?
And I'm just like,
That's the way I can do this.
I'm just sitting there like,
They're like fighting.
my attitude is not my problem, right? Like, just because you're getting a stink out of this, I don't have anybody else saying anything. But she was the only one who brought this up out of anybody that I walked by. And I noticed people walk on the other side of the street if they see me walking down sometimes with a dog without a leash. But they don't say anything. She's the only one saying something. And so this ruminated with me, and she was like threatening she's going to call the cops every time she sees me and finds me and does all this stuff. And I'm like, sure, go ahead, because I'm still going to do what I do. But then I started asking myself, why am I so on this side and she's so on that side? So I started asking myself, I want to understand where she's coming from. Like, she's obviously triggered by this in some way. And I was at first proud of how I was handling it, not being triggered, not being swayed. But instead I was like, oh, all right, I want to understand her. And I visualized this because it was a recent series of events. And I was going to make intentionally a walk around her house. And I was like, I just feel like I'm going to run into her. And it was a morning walk with my dog. And I was walking down the line and past her house, and she was there gardening. And I was like, and I don't think I had my dog at this time, actually. It was just me. And I just started talking with her and getting to know her. And I was asking questions, and she recognized me after a certain time talking to her. She thought I was just like some random stranger. Then she looked up and she's like, oh, you're the guy with the golden. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I want to understand where you're coming from. Like, why this is such a, you know, you feel so
strongly.
Yeah, strong about this. And I was using my words wisely, like not pointing the finger at her, just like, where are you coming from?
Like, why are you so insane?
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't do that.
And she was bringing to light that she's like, it's not your dog, it's the other people's dogs. It's the other people. It's like, you don't know what these dogs are going to react to with a dog that's off the leash. She could get hurt. You could get hurt. You know, all these different scenarios.
Yeah.
I actually was thinking that exact thing, because we have a dog that he's not good with other dogs. And if there was an off the leash dog, he might go and attack them.
Yeah. Wow. And so there was like this, and it was even more in depth than that. Like, I was getting to know her history. You know, she was pointing out like the trouble with these other dogs in the neighborhood and what's going on. And she was like in depth and like really in tune with things at a higher level than I was.
She like cares so much.
Yes. And it wasn't from a place of you're doing wrong. It's just that she cared so much.
Wow.
And she had this beautiful yard with like a butterfly sanctuary, and just, she was like really just a sweet lady. And so I actually like, it completely reframed everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'll start putting her on a leash. Like, I respect where you're coming from. And like, you know, I You showed a different perspective on
My takeaway
things.
from this is you are so stubborn.
Yeah, there's part of it. Well, I told her, I told,
I'm teasing you.
no, but I told her, I'm like, you know what? I am a little stubborn. Like, I'm a rebel at heart. It's like I inherently, if somebody tells me not to do something or not do something, I almost resist for the sheer fact of doing that. And she goes, you know, that's not a bad thing. And she's like, we need more of that in society today.
Yes, and that's all. A lot of us do that, and so it's a really good example of how we can take the time to have a conversation with someone and really get what's underneath what they're saying, and don't be defensive. Have a conversation so that we can understand each other and come to a resolution.
Well, and don't label somebody. Like you had her labeled as a crazy
Karen.
neighbor.
I called her Crazy Karen.
And so, and
Her name is Crystal, actually.
now you know.
Yeah.
And so now you reframed from Crazy Karen to, Crystal, the beautiful
Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Carrying Crystal. There you go. Yeah.
I'm 12.
It's an agree marketer.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope to go down either direction of, it's a razor's edge of being able to understand somebody, detach from your perspective, and being able to just hear from the other person's point of view of why they did things, because we're all doing things to bring like a self-satisfaction or a peace, or screaming out for being seen, felt, and heard when no one's seeing us, hearing us, or feeling us.
So be the reflection. Take the time to be aware and ask the questions and have the conversation and care about her thoughts.
Be curious. Be curious. Like that's the formula.
Yeah. And what happened once you asked those questions? You reframed who you thought you were.
Yeah.
And who she
Or
was.
the man who's walking the dog with no leash to show how great your dog is and how well you've trained the dog.
Yep.
Now you're the man who's caring about your dog and keeping yourself and your dog safe because somebody changed the way you thought about it.
And mindful of the neighborhood, because I'm in a neighborhood. I'm not in the country, right? Like I could walk around in a sanctuary without her being on the leash, no problem. But I'm around. I've chosen to be around other people. So all right, play the game, right? To some extent. Now there's other things that I would be like, nope, not going to do it. But it's like but it's also like, live and let live. Don't infringe upon anybody's.
It shows the power of conversation, though.
Yeah,
The
connection.
power of it, because a lot of us are defensive. We have our views and we want just someone to agree with us when you don't really have the conversation of why you have the view. Right?
Yes. And this brought up two things in my mind. One was one of my really great mentors and was a client of mine for a while when I had my marketing agency. He's a mental performance coach. And one of the things he always would talk about is getting to neutral.
Yeah.
And realizing like we wake up and we can be so easily just charged. Like it could be, even when you're like, I feel amazing today. And I'm like so positive. I'm up in this, like totally different, like la la land. Then that allows you to be like one thing go wrong and it could like drop. And so it's like when something chaotic happens, which is fine, like be up, be down, whatever. But like when things are like in that scenario, it's like your best bet is always to go in neutral and like a totally balanced state where you don't have the judgment or you're just curious, and like it always works out. And the example he was using was when he has like 5 little kids and he was at the mall with like one other dad friend who had their kids, all these kids. And then there was like a huge tornado warning. And like that was near the area and like the whole mall was like chaos. You would have thought there was like a shooter or something, like people were like losing their mind. And he was like, my kids knew because we told them, he's like, we just stay neutral. And so it was like everybody quietly got in a line and we all like got together and I didn't like trip, even though I was really scared. But it was like because I like kept that energy of just like, we have a plan, this is where we're gonna go, and like let's all just stay together. And it was like the outcome of the situation was like no longer, it wasn't a traumatizing situation for the kids that they had to like live through. It was like because he kept that energy of remaining neutral, but it like transformed every situation.
I have to ask a question about that. So I'm going to go back to, there's a place where you can be neutral and balanced, and you always want to stay in the middle, which you want to be able to have the conversations with the lady about the dog, understand that it's crazy when you're in going through a tornado in a mall. But this is also where I think people get confused. Where are they allowed to feel?
Oh, yeah. I think it's
are you allowed
it's
to
like situation
feel?
management. It's like have your feelings, but don't like, create confrontation or like issues from it. I don't know.
I guess discern what should have a certain reaction. Like we would be in a courtroom and the family would overreact to something. And John and I, my law partner, we just stay calm to whatever's going on. Even if like sheriff need to get involved with whatever's going on, you just stay calm. So it's a discernment to know, okay, we can stay calm because we're going to be okay, or we have to react like men are good. And I think women can be good at immediately reacting when they need to move, when they really need to do something.
Well, and it's like the fight, flight, freeze.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, they like he was like, all right, like this is what we got to do. And like, we got to get out of here. But it's like, he did it in a way that like kept that neutrality.
But at what point do you talk, like, let's just use this as an example. At what point for our listeners do they tell their kids, get in a line, don't feel the fear, like act and stay in a neutral place? Afterwards, when everybody's safe, then do you say, hey, recognize the feeling of fear. Where did you feel that in your body? And then release it and now replace it with that we're safe. Like at what point because you have to let those out.
Yes. But I think it goes to trusting yourself on how I should feel about a certain thing and then being able to know how to react to that situation. So why people need to trust their feelings, trust their energy. Not everyone can, and not everyone pays attention. What are you feeling right now? Like when he felt anything about a relationship, are you paying attention to it? And how is it really making you feel? And do you care enough about your body to not have that feeling come? And then how do you deal with it? How do you release it so you don't have to experience this again and protect yourself, right? Okay.
The constant narrative or the constant thing that needs to circulate in one's life to progress is reflecting on the pain. So if you reflect on the pain, the trigger, the things that happened, whether you reacted a little bit beyond what you preferred towards your kids or your spouse or whatever it is, the situation, you have to reflect upon it and you have to clean it up. With yourself, you got to forgive yourself, and then you got to forgive the person perhaps who reflected it back to you and was yelling at you in that process too. So whatever triggers you, you got to dig into reflection and understand where it came from, or get curious, just as I was curious with Crystal, is getting curious with the trigger and what caused it and where is it coming from. And there's a element of forgiveness to it. There's an element of, call forgiveness allowance or release. It's really the formula for moving forward. I heard this with Neville Goddard. I was listening recently, and he defined forgiveness as seeing the ideal in another person or situation. It's not what we think of it as, is like, all right, forgetting and removing the emotion. Instead, replace it with, I know who you are. There's a story of a guru who was talking to somebody, or somebody was talking to the guru, and was saying, Guru, I have all these things going on in my life. My relationship's breaking down. I lost my business. I this, that, and the other, and all these things were going on, and it was chaos. And the guru just stares at his eyes or her eyes, whoever it was, and just goes, you can't fool me. I know who you are. I know who you are. And we're all these spiritual beings, embodiment of God, portraying or forgetting who we truly are, acting like we don't know who we are.
Yeah, because we're always planning, pushing, proving. And
the world is trying to convince you what it is instead of you convincing and telling the world what it is. And we get caught up in the cycle, the storm, the hurricane, the current of other people's ideas that are false and negative. And we get frustrated and lost. And we get lost.
Well, I think,
sorry, no, go ahead.
Why we need to be careful about what we're taking in. So why are people experiencing negative things? What did you grow up seeing, believing about relationships or life? What are you watching in a movie that's showing you bad things, violent things?
How much of that is actually you? It's like,
right, but you're taking it on, right?
I know.
So it's not you. You're taking it on from outside sources, watching it, and your subconscious is taking it on as beliefs, right? And so then you're experiencing these negative things when you can just decide, I'm not going to watch that show. I'm not going to listen to this song. I'm not going to believe these things that I saw in relationships around me.
fear is just being embedded in you. So I just said, hey, the feeling of fear never arises if you stay neutral. So therefore you don't have anything to release.
Wow. But see, who is really neutral when you're subconsciously taking on beliefs about what you see in your daily life? Like whatever you've seen in parents, whatever you've seen in movies, whatever you're bombarded with YouTube or whatever about who men are, who women are, and how they treat each other.
Well, and I just been wanting to add this because it so ties into what you're saying, but it's like going back to what I was saying about how we create stories and narratives in our minds. And so you're talking about where the stories are being, like the origin of them. And then our minds, which are just, if you think of your mind constantly going back to that, it is the supercomputer of your body. We are not our mind. It's like this feature in our physical body that we have the ability to like train and like rewire through all these different methods. And so until you realize that your brain is the number one function that it has is to keep you safe and alive. It's like a primal function. Then you realize, okay, I do need to challenge most of these narratives because there's nothing for me. I'm not going to die. Like, you know, there's not a tiger chasing me or whatever else. And I know that like that's like such a common example people use, but it's so visceral and it's easy to remember.
And actually, to kind of piggyback off of that, so I had so much programming in my childhood and in my life. Like it was a very fear-based childhood. Like everything, I was afraid of if I wasn't going to get a good grade or it was everything. I was afraid of everything. And I made a conscious choice to raise my kids so that they didn't have fear, but almost to the point where now it's like people are like, well, do you have any boundaries for your kids? But I did it because I wanted them to be able to stay neutral, not have those origins, what you're talking about, where did it come from, and to live life to live life and not feel like so like worried that what's gonna happen next. I'm gonna lose this. I'm gonna do that. Like we program our kids to be like totally.
Well, and I was having breakfast with my dad this morning. Love you, Dad. And he was telling me about stories, and we were talking about how he grew up, had like a really rough relationship with his dad. But finally, like, you know, he's like off on his own. And that image of that rough childhood relationship just like really stuck. And so it was like, fuck that guy. Like, I'm not going to talk to him, you know, and I'm just going to go live my life. And then that story, because he didn't see him and like they kind of had like years apart, just grew and grew. And it's like became this bigger and bigger monster, you know, that his dad, was so much worse than it ever was. And then finally started having kids and was like, okay, like I need to mend this relationship. And, you know, so many years had gone by that when he started to like reintroduce like, his dad into his life, he was like blown away. He was like a completely different person. He was, his dad grew too. It was, maturity. He was like, so this story now is like glitching in his mind. It is like error, like that's wrong. And it's because it wasn't checked. He didn't reflect on his pain. He allowed the story in his mind and anxiety to just grow it and grow it and grow it and let it just become this completely unrealistic thing. And now it's like my dad goes and walks with my grandpa like every day, and they go like they're so close and like had this amazing relationship. But it was like, he said it just took that moment of realizing like that your mind, like you create the story.
Well, and to take it like to give the listeners another like example of that is, and I am sorry I'm using this, but I'm going to actually change it up a little. I have a friend who has a boss that's a CEO, and the CEO creates these stories in his mind. He doesn't have all he worries about is that they're going to lose clients. And so he goes in and he starts screaming at all of the people if there's like one bad thing that goes on with a client. And he's literally screaming. And I hear these conversations when I'm with my friend. And I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? He is creating these ideas that he's going to lose his best $5 million client. And now he's pushing that onto his entire company. And it's just like a father doing it to his family. And then when all of a sudden the CEO has a good day, they get a new account, and he's like a freaking terrible wife or husband that's been like abusive to the wife or whatever. And now he's like buying them all flowers and stuff. And everybody in the company is like,
they're psychotic.
What just happened to this guy?
But why does he do it? Because it works. There are certain people that have this ability to complain, whine, be dramatic, and bring what he's trying to get. Like, even though he's complaining, he has this ability to complain, whine, get people like in the workplace to do what they need to do out of fear. To get what his goal is. So he continues to do it. So I say things like someone wants to sabotage with stories and all this stuff, and it's messing with my aura of positivity, but it works. So they continue to do it because they can see it works. They can yell and say, I'm looking for this, and then all of a sudden it's right there. I'm losing this, and then all of a sudden everyone around them is working to get what he's saying he's lacking. So it works. But only to teach people to not do that. Let's go from positivity
and think about, and that's why we need people to remember who they are. And then be able to like be like your dad and come back and say like, oh, I can rewire this memory. And like, I don't have to lead with fear. I can lead with love. And the things are still going to work out with my company. And I don't have to be the crazy CEO that's yelling 1 second and then giving them flowers the next and holding back their bonuses and then saying, oh, maybe you'll get a bonus next year.
Like, learn to encourage and set a positive vision for everyone. Learn. Because if you don't know how, because you learned how to do it this way and it's working for you, learn a different way, because it is affecting our nervous systems. It's affecting everyone's body. And they're in a stress mode to create this.
And I think it's, well, no, I know that this is why we talk about hypnosis so much, right? It's rewiring the way that your operating system, as Hope would say, is working. And we are actually all connected. Like, think of AI, how everything that we're putting into the AI brain, like we're connected, and now we're connected at a quantum level with this AI computer. So now the more and more that we can reprogram the way we're thinking and the words that we're using, and having those times of coming together with our neighbor and saying, hey, I want to see your side of the story. I want to understand. Being able to recognize when we need to do that is very important. And that's where, as you go through every day in your life, if you feel these emotions coming up, realize where they're coming from and how do you get to that state of neutral so you don't have to deal with the fear and the worry.
And how do we heal our nervous system through hypnosis, resolve the issues we have, like trauma embedded in our body? Do this, be aware, heal it, go forward, and try not to traumatize everyone else and mess their nervous system.
Well, and I think, and it's don't traumatize anybody else. And deal with your own trauma as soon as you realize it's coming up. Like, I am not perfect. I had a huge fight with my husband this morning. I had to go within and say, what is wrong with me? Why did I do that?
But nothing's wrong with you. There's something you had to resolve, right? So you had to have the conversation to realize, what is it that's bothering me? What do I need to resolve? What do I need to heal from? And then move forward with this person, right? And in a good way.
And I think I need to add to the thoughts too, is like, what's wrong with me? It's more of like, what part of me isn't feeling seen right now? Because that's like one of the things that I'm really, for myself, I have this natural tendency to be so critical. Like, I am such a, like, at my core, I've worked through these perfectionist things, like literally finished my first group program last night. And my mom called me and was like, so happy for you. How do you feel? I'm like, I'm already writing notes on how everything's going to be different and what I'm going to do next time. And she's like, you're so, like, what? Like, she's like, this is like a milestone. I'm like, but it's like, it's just, that's how my mind works. And then you realize it's like, okay, like, that's good to an extent. But at the same time, it's like, you're not giving yourself the space to, like, have peace or whatever else. And like, my point being, when you have these issues coming up, instead of being so harsh on yourself and like, cutting yourself down and being super critical, it's like pausing and like sitting with yourself and saying, like, I'm having really big emotions right now, and I'm going to listen to Tool and I'm going to scream while I'm getting ready. but what's missing? Like what needs to be like nurtured within myself right now? And like that, going from that, like, to like, what the fuck is wrong with me, to like what needs love and like what needs to be tended to is like a paradigm shift. Doesn't that even feel better? Like
feels better. I mean, and that's what I'd ask all the listeners to do is, ask yourself, what is it that you need? I love that. Like, what is...
They're not feeling seen.
Yeah,
in that moment. That's like what it is.
But understand that we're all connected. So whatever you need to heal in you, whatever you're dealing with another person, they need to heal something in themselves. So it's not just you. I was telling Justin the other day, I was looking at the sun and I was seeing how it vibrated. And I was thinking about how we're all connected. And so you're looking at the sun and it's vibrating and moving, and you're seeing how it's like dispersing out. I think that because of all of us are feeling things and it's radiating out, that's how part of it, how we're all connected, right? So you can't think that this experience that you were able to communicate, because not everyone can do that, you're able to communicate your feelings is not a positive effect to this relationship and all relationships around us. That's what that's doing. So being strong enough to voice your feelings and opinions to heal is the most powerful thing that anyone can do. All of us. Yeah.
I mean, it's, I can't even say anything because my throat chakra is blocked right now. So just
let me go. Yeah, I've been laying dormant here, just observing. And it's this understanding, like I keep on going back to the idea that like everything is synchronous, everything's linked up. I picture the gears of life and everything. Like I had that experience down in Costa Rica when I did mushrooms, and I was looking up at the sky connected with the sun, and I saw the geometrical pattern from the sun, the sky, the canopy to me, and how everything's connected. And it didn't look like a circle to a square. It was all like geometrical patterns just completely meshed up. Mm-hmm. And until you experience anything like that, it sounds fucking crazy. But then when you start to like link everything up and look at your life and look at everything and how it is, it looks like a geometrical pattern. Proverbially, experientially, you can look at all these patterns like Steve Jobs said. You can look at the path looking back and make it make sense. You can't look forward and really make it make sense, except for having faith, like knowing that all is good. There is no destruction. There is no fear is an illusion. Anger is an illusion. These are all just like false idols, false feelings that are there to actually bring out peace and love and light and allowing you to go, okay, that reflection. If I'm saying something bad about myself, okay, trigger, pause, hold up, self-awareness. Why am I saying that to myself? Why am I saying it like this? My son makes fun of me from time to time. He's like, you're so critical on words. Like he came back for years and I'm so annoyed by this. I'm so annoyed by that. I'm like, are you really annoyed? Like, why are you annoyed? If you keep on saying you're annoyed, you're going to continue to be annoyed. And it's like, you should be looking at why that triggers you. And then looking at, is it even worth getting annoyed about?
Right.
And then you go into like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for attention? Are you looking for it to be seen? And these things are going back to the CEO and the people who know how to get a rise out of somebody or a group of people have that control until they no longer do. But it's up to you to be able to elevate your frequency and go, I see what's going on. I'm not going to vibe with it. I'm also not going to, I don't even need to challenge it. I just need to be a different version. Like when you no longer react, you stop there. You break their consciousness and then they realize they don't have the power anymore.
Right.
So they have to change.
Right. Well, and one other thought that popped up while you were saying that is like, when you were saying like fear is an illusion, these emotions are illusions. I think what I like kind of disagree with that, because I think that fear is an experience that is very real for so many people and like whatever level you're at. But what you're looking at from like emotions really are like, I love I can't remember who said this, but it's like energy in motion. Mm-hmm. So it's like whatever, like I do agree that it's like that feeling triggers something to come up and out, and it's an energetic movement. And what you do with that is going to dictate, like, you know, the result of that energy in motion. So like when you were saying you were in survival mode, that energy didn't move. You know, when those traumatic experiences, like it stayed and you put it on the shelf or whatever else.
Well, it's actually perpetual transmutation of the energy. And so so you can choose to live in fear, what you're saying, and experience those things. The more that you do, the more the pendulum is swinging back and forth, and the bigger the roller coaster ride is that you're on.
Totally.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so you were in a perpetual transmutation of energy, of overworking, proving. And so that all of those things were coming back to you. And so what I just realized by what you said is, for me, I can stay pretty neutral now because I know I'm very in a good frame of mind. But when I get my perpetual energy going and I get angry, unheard, unseen, I like flip a switch really fast and I start transmuting that energy back down. I have to pull myself back to that neutral place that you were talking about earlier too.
I just don't know that it's like bad or wrong to like have those big feelings come up.
No, because it's growth.
Yeah.
But it's how fast you deal with it.
Right. Yeah. And how fast you like swing it. Yeah, totally.
As I'll use an analogy here, as I gained more knowledge and surrounded myself around people who were at a certain level in strength coaching and training, it became easier to get the body that I wanted. I didn't have to train as much. I trained hard, and I actually was more intense with my training. The intention behind everything was much more clear, defined, intentional, aware, and you get more results with that. And it's kind of the same thing where like somebody who's starting off is just going to start walking or working out or doing, you know, a class. They're not going to get the same results as I'm going to get because it's just not possible. Like there needs to be a certain level of awareness and skill to maintain it, not to get it, but how do you actually hold it, embody that essence, that fitness, that physique, or whatever it is. And when we're talking about, when I mean it's all an illusion, I'm saying all is light, all is love. Like look at the band of frequency for light. It's from 0 to whatever hertz, right? But it's all light. It's all the same thing. It's all the same. It's all just a frequency or a bandwidth, right? Now, where we get caught up in emotion with it is the definition that we give it. So a frequency at 300, which would be stated as fear, versus a frequency of authenticity at 900, like, is that good or is that bad? They're neither or. They're all part of the same continuum. Now, to maintain that neutrality is understanding that a low frequency is just as important and essential as the high frequency.
Yes.
And you will experience all of it. And it's like you don't get to a point of detachment and enlightenment or awareness, peace, in tune with God without experiencing all of it. You actually experience more of it. You just become more neutral in the sense of like an observer. A neutrality is observing. It's like it's separating yourself from the identity, from the me, from the physical avatar that we're embodying or operating with, and just going, it's like a video game. Easier said than done at times, but that's what it is.
So then, like, from a listener perspective, I'm sitting here listening to this asking, how do I do that? And then I look like I'm not a player in my life.
Allow yourself to feel. Because why I keep saying it's all evolution. We're not all perfect. We all have our embedded negative coding. And so things are going to come up. And why I say it's so powerful that you're able to feel what you feel and voice what you feel, communicate it to someone, have the conversation, and see if you two can resolve it. That's powerful because people are not doing that. So do that.
So feel my hurts.
And be okay that you have a feeling.
Feel the 300, but know that I can get back to the 100.
It's
that's
like,
what you're telling the listeners to do.
All of it.
No,
but there's
always going to be that, and be okay with that. You can't be perfect 24/7. But go ahead.
There's one time I like how she passes it out.
I think she's asking you, and
Love it.
It takes being around putting yourself into rooms and situations and people and frequencies and vibrations and situations that challenge you. And it's like my mentor, Tim Grover, said, there's never a problem. There's only a situation. Mm-hmm. And when you can look at that and go, okay, what good can I get out of it? There's a silver lining here. Alex Hormozy, if you don't know him, doesn't matter. The story's more important. This guy just lost his mom, and he was speaking about it publicly and going, the time that I grieve has nothing to do with how much I loved her or how much I love her. Those are completely separate. My ability to go from she passed, I grieved, moved on in terms of like the essence of things, that's the ability to be resilient and aware and acknowledge that. And how do you absorb that? How do you process that? Losing somebody, how do you handle somebody by changing the definition and going transferring or elevating or looking at it as not a loss, but a gain. And there's always a silver lining to all things. So
but if we look at like the secret feeling of emotions, there's the book, I can't remember who wrote it. It's very important to realize when you lose something, you have to replace it. It's the loss and the rebirth. Yeah,
it's always
how fast can you do that is the question.
And you can do it. I mean, time, like theoretically, like knowing you can do it in an instant. It's only your choice.
That's what he's saying. You don't have to grieve for 3 years to say like I lost something that I loved.
But everybody's at a different level.
Right. So if we go back to my situation, I didn't take the time to grieve all these things. So, okay, he's busy right now. I was busy you will grieve when you grieve. And why do we have to you got to grieve right now and you got,
there is
maybe
no wrong.
If I had grieved then and I could open up myself to more and abundance or whatever, but that's just wasn't my path. And I have to be okay with that and not be so sad. No, this is the time. I have the time, like Hope said. This is the time. Let yourself and be okay with how your path goes and don't let anyone judge you for not grieving right now the way they think you should or whatever. And that's a good message because we all have to live our life and get through it and do what we got to do. And then we'll grieve when you're going to grieve.
The more you have people around you who are there to bring awareness to you in a way that is in and of themselves awareness, like what we're doing here when I'm listening to myself listening to you and I'm listening to the words that you are saying and then something comes up and I'm like, I know what that frequency of word does. Maybe call that a judgment. I call that a discernment. Like that's no different than somebody's knee being out of alignment in a split squat where I'm like, all right, you got to adjust this, put weight on your heel. You got to open up your arch a little bit. Okay, now you're doing it right. Feel that? Good. Okay. And doing that with people's words and frame of mind shapes their frame of mind, which then shapes my reality because now you're more in tune with how I see you.
Well, yes, that's right. And I think all the great mystics of the world, like Christ, like understanding how people are feeling, having them seen and heard and having compassion for that.
Yeah.
And then being able to show them this is the way, right?
And you can bang your head against the wall if you choose to. Mm-hmm. Man, I'm not gonna have empathy for you or compassion, I think is a better word for me, but I'm gonna be a representative of what it's like to be as whole as I can see myself and feel myself and hold that for others as hard as it is.
Yeah. And I think there's a book called The Courage to Be Disliked. Mm-hmm. And the way that the book is written, I encourage all the listeners to go out and get it, but it's what you're saying. It's like holding that space to be you and to understand that almost everything that we're doing in a way that we're trying to prove ourselves to someone else.
This is so
and like if you just tweak your knee just a little bit, or your body, or your words, or the way that you view your life, you can have a perfect squat, or you can have a perfect feeling. But when you're out there looking for somebody else's approval, you're never going to get it.
Yeah, you're out of alignment with yourself, and now it's the saying as within, so without. As without took me a while to define and get clear on. So explaining it to everybody is it's everything outside of you. Without is everything outside of you. As within is everything within inside of you. And
so you need to give approval to yourself first.
Yeah.
And then you'll get it from other people.
Even when you don't get
we
it
all
right away,
struggle
too.
with that. Yeah, give it to yourself. It's your life. You have stuff to do. Prove yourself, and then
life is gonna test you. It's like as simple as like I'm gonna put on a shirt that I really love that makes me feel good, but then when the person I want to get acknowledgement from that I may have not known that I want acknowledgement from doesn't acknowledge it, then I'm like, oh, I don't want to wear this shirt anymore. And it's like that's
so sad, but so true.
But that's like that. Now your focus is without. And I think that's very symbolic and synchronistic to say without, right? It's without your power, but instead
Maybe
it's
you
there.
just need to go without the shirt. I'm just kidding.
That's just, and it may be a sign from time to time.
Just be naked.
Yeah,
That is what
life would be easier.
we still don't get the approval with all that.
Yeah, you wouldn't get not everybody will be approved. No,
So don't do that.
but
We're all in our own meat suits.
Oh my God.
Well, one thing I wanted to add to this before we go too far is that so our collectively as a society, we are not given any training or any education on not only how to understand, identify, and process our own emotions, but what it takes to do that for another person. So at the beginning of the conversation, you said something about no one was there to grieve and hold my hand, or how come no one knows how to do this in a community setting. And it's because variety of different reasons, but it's a skill. And when I went through my shameless plug to Selma IQ, where I got my breathwork training, it was 4 days, and it was you would think it's mostly about learning techniques, and it was nothing. It was such a small part of that, and it was largely about just emotional intelligence and how to be with people when they're having serious breakdowns. Because the way somatic breathwork works is you're really inducing a state that's safe for your nervous system to fully release. I've had people screaming at the top of their lungs, grown men punching their fists. How you have to have training. I literally went through training where there's a Harvard professor there teaching how to hold that space and how to be there with people like that, and what not to do and what to do. And it was just it blew my mind so much, because I was everything I've ever done up until this point is what they're saying is the opposite of what is the correct way to hold space. And one of the simplest examples is when someone's crying and you run over and you are trying to tell them it's going to be okay. It's that's the opposite of what you're supposed to do. People just want you to be there and to just experience it with them and hold that space and not tell them that anything that they're experiencing is wrong.
Yeah.
And when you're little kids, it's I am talking about my dad a lot today. It's that's totally, dad, it's you're going into dad mode. It's you scrape your knee and you're crying and it's oh my God, everything's gonna be fine. You're fine. Just let it be. And it's obviously he's just doing that because he thinks it's gonna make it go away faster. But it's that's, you're bypassing somebody's experience.
How are you doing?
don't rob the experience.
Yeah. What's going on? And it's you just rush them to get through those feelings, and they haven't been fully released.
There's something to just, a crying child is a great analogy, a great example, where it's if you just provide the open hands and just bring them in and allow them, and you rock them and just hold them that example.
And that's why they're crying, though. So my sister just had a baby, and she's got a 2-year-old, and it's they cry to be seen. And so you fall, you hurt yourself. You want somebody to see you, and you want them to be there and say, not necessarily it's okay, but just hold you.
Yeah.
And let you get out that frustration of I fell and I wanted to be running to get the bug that was on the ground or whatever. And the only way that I can communicate with you right now is by crying.
And what are people told? I know that we're told typically stop crying, right?
That's the thing.
Toughen up. these things, right?
I think in society, we've been trained to believe and think that no one should be crying. We don't want them to have to cry. We don't want them to feel bad. So we're just thinking, let's figure out a way to stop a person from crying. Why this conversation is important, because if we don't realize as a society that crying's healing and can help all of us, and we should allow someone the space to cry and it's okay because it will heal them, then how are we going to do it? We're not going to do it. We're going to say, no, you're fine.
Well, they do, and you do it at work. I mean, I remember I was 23 years old and I was so frustrated at work. It was like my first big job, and I don't even remember why, but I was in my manager's office and I was crying. And she's like, pull your shit together and stop crying. We don't cry at work.
I've seen that so many
times.
And
I was like now I think about it, like she saved me probably a lot of heartache of like worrying, but the whole thing was she was a good friend of mine for a long time. Mm-hmm. Why didn't she hold that space? It's because of the society and the way that we're raised, and especially women. I mean, women don't let your emotions go at work. You have to be just like a man and stay stone-faced and, not show it. That's wrong.
So think of this on a larger scale. If everyone's being told to do that, what energy blockages are all over our body? What diseases are we creating in our body because we're blocking the energy flow or whatever, and we're feeling deeply about something, but we're not releasing it? What is that causing? We're all going to end up in the hospital. We're all going to have cancer. We're all going to be dying of something. And it's just because we didn't release something through crying. Mm-hmm. So it's a large scale thing done on purpose that we need to realize. Just let yourself, if you don't want to cry in front of others, just cry somewhere else, but release it already.
Well, made me think maybe we can have a session for everybody and anybody in the Chicagoland area who wants to join us and do maybe a breath work and release.
Literally anytime. I love it. And it's such a great experience too, because the first time that you do it, it might be new and you might not be having these, what I just call like an emotional release, obviously. You could just be like, wow, I've never like sat for an hour and like just breathed slowly. And you might be like blown away at how much transformation you feel in that like quiet experience. But the more comfortable you get with it, like you may notice, like this is like for me, I've done this a lot at this point. We're receiving, and for me, it's like I always start by like it starts coming out as like a big laugh. Like I just start like cracking up. It's very my personality. It's like I'd rather laugh things off and like make jokes, and then like after a certain point, then it's like I just start crying and like sobbing and like getting all of it out. But it's like because I know that, it's like a good sign. I just know like whatever comes up, it just needs to come up and out, and I don't judge it. And so it's like not just one breathwork journey, but it's like getting into this practice. It's like a muscle. Like you get better and better at this and how to like experience yourself, and then you're able to like hold yourself. And one thing I wanted to add a science nerdy fact is that about the science behind raw emotion, like physiologically, it actually, anger, fear, sadness only typically lasts 90 seconds in your body. This is from research I've read a ton. Her name's Dr. Jill Bolt-Taylor, a neuroanatomist who finds that chemical reaction only lasts a minute and a half unless we keep re-triggering it with thought. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm so obsessed with stories and like disrupting the pattern. And like when people go on and they start telling me these things, I'll be like, stop, like, wait. And like, it cracks people up. But it's like, you're literally chemically, you're almost like poisoning yourself with the thought to continue to create this emotional response and reaction. And so when you take yourself out of this, it's like, yes, feel your feelings, allow this to express, but also like, what if you just let it pass through you in that 90 seconds or however long you need to, and then allow it to come out and just, like you said, it's a detox. And then you're like, okay, on to the next thing. It can be that easy. Yeah. I don't know if you ever like thought about it in that perspective.
It's a great way to think about it. And it's, as you were saying it, it's like I'm older, raised differently. The children that I do hypnosis with, they actually are really good at this. And so you can pattern interrupt them and we can replace, like feel those emotions and then replace them with something else. And they actually are rewired. There's I have one girl who's really good at rewiring old memories. So she'll come in and she'll like be in this circle of thought. And all of a sudden, as long as we can work through it, she can be the observer of her own thoughts and her own life. And then she rewires that memory that her and her mom were fighting or whatever. And she's able to replace it with a different feeling. And then she comes out of all of our sessions much different. And her parents actually have said that over the last 6 sessions, they've seen such an amazing transformation in the way that she deals with her worry and her anxieties and her OCD. And it's just by helping her understand those emotions. So it's like the more that we can come together as a community, realize this, do more and more to interrupt those emotions, replace them, and move on with something different, the more neutral we can be, the more we can raise our vibration and bring us into this 5D world that we all want to live in.
I love that. That's so exciting that she's having that much success from just a few sessions. Hypnosis is amazing.
Yes.
The one other thing to add, and not to be, going on such a tangent here, was just about how to ask yourself how much of your personality and how you show up is actually unresolved trauma responses. So it's like what you're going through you have to process these things. Like, please do. I'm not saying, it should be 90 seconds. Let it rip and move on. But it's like, there is a part where it's like, is that really me? It's like, no.
And it's 90 seconds of all the different, and we're not like, it's not like trauma that's just like big trauma. It's that 90 seconds of not feeling seen when you hurt your knee when you're a 2-year-old. It's that 90 seconds of somebody saying something rude to you and not dealing with it, and it's all these little things throughout your life that you have to deal with to be able to move on and become better and better every day.
Years ago, I was going through this landmark seminar, which is kind of like a Tony Robbins type self-development stuff.
As a kid.
You did?
Yes,
that's amazing. Yeah.
It's amazing.
And
Landmark Forum?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they have you go through like looking at a moment in time as you were a child between like 6 to 8 years old. Something happened where you had a never again moment. Like you decided for yourself that this was never going to happen again in my life, and you develop a pattern, right? Put the walls up, and we all have those moments. And in this forum, there was all sorts of like catastrophic events that happened to certain people, major abuse, all these things. I never had any of that. But what came to mind was a situation where I was 8, 9 years old, whatever it was, and I got embarrassed in front of the entire school for popping a chip bag in the cafeteria. And the principal grabbed me by the wrist and pulled me out, and I was embarrassed by it, and it was a big deal for me at that age. But I was beating myself up over it. Like, that's not a big deal. Like, these people had to deal with like physical, sexual abuse. I didn't have to deal with any of that. So like, why am I tripping over this? But that's not the point. It's like your experience is your experience, and that's the thing that you got to work through. What your mess is your message. So work through your mess, not anybody else's. And so as I was going through understanding that that was the situation that was messing with me, what happened and transpired from that moment is when I was a little kid is I told my mom, principal did this. She got big mama bear mode on and started talking to the principal and saying, you need to apologize to my son. She's making a big deal out of it. I wanted it to be done. So she tells me, hey, he's going to come talk to you. If he doesn't apologize, I need you to tell me. And I was like, got it. Cool. So he comes in next day of school, pulls me out of class and goes, talk to your mom. She wants me to apologize. I'm not going to apologize to you. And I just basically said, cool, got it. And went back in, and I knew in that very moment that I was going to lie to my mom and say he apologized, to just squash it. So what I realized through that process was I had a lack of self-worth because I lied to my mom. And I carried that through for 2 decades, right? And so it was in my mid-20s that I started realizing the connection between that moment in time and my worth and how it was portraying in my relationships, in my business, in my life. And I went through a meditation, call it hypnosis, where I was working on a root chakra meditation. And it brought me to that point as a child. I was sitting next to myself as a big brother to this little 8-year-old and talking about what was going on, what happened near the principal's office in my school. And I was like, what happened? Like, what's going on? And he's like, I didn't need his fucking apology. Fuck that guy. And I was like, in that moment, I just completely reframed my worth because I'm like, this kid's badass. Like, he made a decision for himself, and the judgment that I was feeling from lying to my mom was superimposed by my mom, by society, saying you're bad for lying, for doing this. It wasn't me. I didn't need that. I did what I needed to do to move on from the situation. Call it bad or whatever it may be. It was from a position of power, not from weakness from that point on.
Right. And that's exactly what you're doing with your clients. Right. You're taking
reframing
them back to the scenarios and looking at it from a totally different perspective, maybe even taking people from their higher self. You said like a big brother, whatever else, a guide, whatever it is, and you neutralize. Like, you give space to let that being and that version of yourself be seen. Yeah. We're not like negating
not judging
the experience. We're not judging it, but we're just like putting light and like a different color to it.
It's a really important, and actually it made me think we'll ask you listeners next time if we maybe do a short, like 3-minute, 5-minute run through on how you did that, because that's really good self-hypnosis. So if we can do that with ourselves, and you could share with the listeners, they may not have to go into a hypnotist's office and do what you did with yourself was called age regression.
Yeah.
And so if we can all start to heal ourselves when we give our listeners some of these tools. So if you'd be open to it, maybe you could run through how you were able to do that, because you had a powerful self-hypnosis. I have a very similar story.
Can I ask a question before we go into maybe your story? My question is the self-worth part. Is it self-worth lowered because you lied to your mom, or self-worth because you never received an apology for something you probably should have received an apology for? So which was the self-worth, and how do you interpret that?
So it was all within. So how you know it's the truth is it's coming from within, that I didn't need an external validation of an apology from a guy who I had no respect or really cared for.
So it was with him. You didn't receive the apology, and you didn't need that because you should have your own self-worth.
And as a kid, remove the societal...
pushing that on you.
Exactly. So remove the societal and parental judgments that were imposed upon me that I took on. Okay. That wasn't me. That was an artificial program saying you're bad for doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what's really there's two things then.
So the release, I was never fixated on the principle. Like, it was never like it was, but he was a vehicle.
Yeah.
He was a vehicle for this catalyst to happen.
Wow.
And then through pain plus reflection and being able to reflect on it for years, and finally having the vehicle of self-hypnosis and meditation to go guided through the process to then discover it and go, whoa, instantaneous release.
Right.
Where it was just no 0 to 10. And you never go back. Once when you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
And it's that perspective from that point on. Now I got to work through other self-worth stuff.
Right. Now you rework that one thing in your life.
Domino effect.
That might have been the first thing that happened, but there might have been something else earlier that you're not dealing with. So you dealt with that and it all fell down. Now there might be something else you need to deal with, and it starts to fall down.
Right. So let's fast forward to today. And what is he should be receiving apologies for that he's not? And he's just saying, well, I don't need it because I have self-worth.
But
I'm not saying I need any apology.
That's the point. Why doesn't someone need an apology for something to move on with, let's say, a relationship? Why shouldn't we not expect apologies just because we have self-worth? Because how do you heal if you're just going to let someone treat you a certain way? And I don't need your apology because I'm so strong. You can treat me however you treat me, and I'm going to continue to let you treat me that way.
But he's not somebody. I don't have him in my life, like in a sense.
I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about other people. So in your life that do things to you, and you think you're so strong. I don't need you to apologize for all the crap you're doing to me. I don't need an apology because I have self-worth. But at what point do you realize you should not allow people to treat you a certain way?
But it's boundaries
within.
That's my point.
And it's all about forgiveness. And it's not like forgiveness, I let go and I don't talk to you. But what if that person is not able to give you an apology because they truly believe that what they did was right? And
or
right
even what if they just died? Right. Like what they exit your life. Like you're not gonna get
unresolved now.
But I'm just saying though, it's like, but it's the same thing. Yeah. It's like, you're not gonna get what you're wanting from that person.
You continue to view it someone that keeps hurting your feelings just because you think you have self-worth and I could just deal with all this going on that they do.
Well, that's a whole nother
so we have to think about those things.
Another conversation of being seen, heard, and appreciated.
It's a way of healing.
Realizing that the only way that you're going to get your apology is by saying, I'm sorry to that person. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. It's ho'oponopono. It's what I was talking to you about.
I know, but sometimes it's not even that. Like sometimes those people are just going to be the way they're going to be. And when does the love come in?
You need the forgiveness.
But also the forgiveness of what you believe about that person, right?
Yep.
Yep. But also when they're not going to give it, to you, don't you?
Well, that's what I was just going to say is
but it's not about them. It's about him, right? What forgiveness does he have to have within himself to forgive those kinds of treatments and say, well, I forgive that and I'm not going to let myself live that.
That's what I think that's the next step is that don't wallow in it. Like if this situation isn't serving you and your needs are just consistently being unmet, no matter how much communication, you can forgive all day long, but at the end of the day, you are in control of your life.
Right.
Most people, hopefully, if you have the funds and resources to do whatever you want, then exit stage. But
you don't exit yourself is the point. You don't exit yourself. You have to exit yourself. You have to realize what is triggering this to happen in my life, and I have to heal within myself. Like why you're so upset that you have a feeling about something. Why do you have the feeling? Why do you have that belief about this could possibly be happening? Because there's something you've seen, watched, heard, been bombarded with your whole life that you believe these things happen and you can be feeling it right now. And how do I heal that? So I don't feel this is how life is.
But
so I don't keep attracting it.
But do I need an apology for it?
No, I'm not saying you do. That's what I'm saying. He can heal himself and realize I don't need to believe that's how things are, and I don't have to put up with that kind of situation because that's not how life is. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. Heal yourself because then you won't experience that. Because I believe certain things about people and then you experience it when it's not true, and why it's so important to be aware and be observing and perceiving and realizing why you're perceiving it may not be about them, may be about yourself. And it doesn't let go of the fact that they're doing it. So you have to make decisions about that person, whether you want to be around that kind of activity.
Right.
But you still can heal yourself.
Totally. But there's so much value in having that perspective before exiting. You were saying,
because you can't exit.
Well, because at the end of the day, if you're not understanding yourself and how you're experiencing whatever the situation is, fight with a relationship or whatever else, it's going to continue showing up in other ways.
Right. That's why I say it's not about that person. It's still about you.
So go back to my CEO. And he's always yelling and screaming.
I told you he gets the result he's looking for.
But what does he need to do? Say he's like, fuck this company. I don't want to be with
who, the employee?
The CEO.
But he's the one creating this. He's never going to say, fuck this company. He's going to say...
But does he need to say, I'm sorry to all these people that he went around?
But why should he? He's getting the results he wants. It's the other person now, the worker, that doesn't like, if he doesn't like this situation, to decide, how do I heal this within myself? His acting that way. How do I re-envision that he's not going to act that way to get that result, and we can have this result without that?
Go.
This has nothing to do with the CEO. This has everything to do with the person observing the CEO. So the interacting with the CEO, investing their energy and time into the CEO. So what needs to be done is boundaries. right?
So the employee should say, hey, I'm not going to have you talk to me that way.
That's what I say to people all the time. That's what you got to do.
You got to be willing to walk away, or you got to be willing to just, set the boundaries. And if those boundaries aren't met, then that gives you signals and signs to go, okay, you need to go elsewhere. With the CEO changing within the employee needs to start look like they're expecting him to be that way.
Yeah.
Right.
They're expecting him to be that way. So that's on them. Their assumptions are already lined up that he's going to be this way and he's going to be that way. And they somehow convince themselves that they are surprised when he goes back and forth and left and right and don't know when he's going to be this or that.
And the fact that the result that he's trying to get actually happens.
And then,
so what do? You tell your the employees to just stand up against them and say, no, we're not going to do this until you start.
It doesn't always even need to be that abstract or it doesn't need to be that confrontational. It's like what is your internal dialogue walking into that work, into that job, into that office? What is your internal dialogue and expectations and thoughts going into an office with him? How are you feeling? How are you feeling when he's talking? Are you just like a shaking dog? Or are you cool, calm, collective, and in tune with your breath and just looking at somebody who's
crazy,
got a miserable personal life first and foremost that leads to a miserable professional life, and you got to.
But these are the leaders. These are the leaders of our world, of our company.
The results. So if
that's an illusion.
If the workers embody that this is not how things have to work, and this is not how we're going to get results for you, we can ignore what you're doing and know we're going to get the results. Some people may need to have conversations to make that shift. So they need to sit down and say, hey, we're going to get you amazing results without you having to act like this. And I want to be treated with respect here. And I don't want to come to work and be yelled at and mess with my nervous system, even though I'm going to get you the results you're wanting.
Right.
Let's be human beings here. Some people need that conversation. Some people don't. Shift you, and everything shifts around you, right?
Right.
I mean, that's easier.
That's the discernment, because I do think there's people who can mentally shift the way that they're thinking, and then there's other people who have to have a communication event to set the boundaries, to know that they've been heard.
Yes.
We all have people in our lives, or been the person. I've certainly been the person who gets along with the outcast. The one who's been demonized, the one who's the bad person, that CEO. It's the Karen. I'm like, okay, let me understand you. And Karen Crystal, shout out.
So imagine if
now you start to go like, hey, let me understand where you're coming from. And then you start to actually soften them up through that process. Yeah. It's because I see the true version. And now that opens them up, and that's how one person can change 100.
That is so powerful, because the worker can actually have a conversation, and it may be the first time any CEO felt someone cared.
Yeah, because they're being judged. It goes back to that Summerhill book.
A lot of pressure.
Right, so why they're releasing it that way?
I bet
they're releasing it, right?
My employees used to tell me that when I was under pressure like that, I was always like a micromanager. But it's because I didn't trust the people around me to do what they say they would do. And so there's a boundary thing, and there's all these things. So yes,
there's that sympathy that needs to happen.
That book from A.S. Neal, Summerhill Academy, he had a turnaround where he took kids who were criminals, kicked out of school, completely outcasted, and turned them around in 6 months because he broke their consciousness through just curiosity, where it was like, you're coming into my academy here, you got caught stealing and doing all these things. I want to understand, like, why didn't you do boxcars instead of stores? Like, you make way more money doing that. He broke their consciousness instantaneously by instead judging them. Why did you steal? That's stupid. That's wrong. Why would you do that? Versus, I want to understand what was like, why'd you do this instead of that? And you just completely level with them. And now they can see you eye to eye. And now you can start to actually just, you like my vibration and my peace? Okay, you can get a bit of this now.
That's a very good point, right? So for the listeners, when you're having those situations, it's asking like, what's coming? What's coming up here? What's going on with you? What's going on when you treat me like this.
And let's think about this. Curiosity shows caring for the other person. It's also showing caring for yourself.
Yes.
Why do we both need to experience this in our life when we don't have to? We can get the results you want with all the craziness. So let's show curiosity. Let's show each other we care about each other and we have the same goal and work towards it in peace.
Yeah.
That's the name of the episode. Curiosity equals caring.
Love it.
Oh, nice.
Like Caring Crystal. Oh,
Caring Crystal. Yeah.
All right. So let's call this one a wrap.
I love it.
And thank you for listening. We love you guys. We appreciate you. And we ask you to remember who you are so that we can carry peace, love, and prosperity through the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.